afternoon. My name is Ray Pastora, and I just wanted to say you won't find more ardent conservatives than immigrants from former communist countries. We have seen government control run amok in these nations. I came from Nicaragua, and my mother brought me here to escape the tyranny and oppression that was going on there under the Sandinista government. She was particularly turned off by the indoctrination of the children in the schools. So, as you can imagine, I had a very interesting conversation with her this past week. So I called her up and I said, "Mom, what did you think about all this?" And she's like, "I brought you over here so we could escape indoctrination, and now we're finding the same kind of junk here." Now, granted, they took out the one part of the whole agenda that had her alarmed. I still objected to the idea of a president, regardless of party, giving a national address to our children. That is not their role. But what caused them to withdraw that plan was us, the American people, crying out and saying, "We do not want you to do this. It is not your role, and you are not to indoctrinate our children."
We didn't cry out, we screamed out.
So that, my friend, is the beauty of America, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. The beauty of America is the fact that we can come out here in the rain, we can come out here on the 4th of July when most people are sleeping in. We're letting our voices be heard. And we're here today to let our voices be heard, once again in the rain. You know, we have the power as citizens to put a check on executive power every 2 years. And we do that by who we elect into Congress. We the people hold the true power, and our Constitution is bigger than any president or any Republican or Democrat. You, fellow citizens, have done more to educate me about the Constitution than anyone else. I used to see the world as a Republican. Now I see it through the prism of the Constitution.
Yeah.
We need candidates who campaign, not with a Republican or Democratic platform, but with a constitutional platform.
Yeah.
The only platform that matters is Article 1, Section 8 for our future members of Congress. So I just simply wanted to come out here and say that when our good congressman retires, we need to find candidates who will take up that banner and carry the banner of our Constitution. So I say, God bless you, my fellow citizens, God bless our Constitution, and God bless America.
Collectivist tyranny. It has grown, I believe, to a point now where just depending on electing 20, 50, 100 Republicans in the next election is not enough to stop their takeover of authority that they don't have. I believe what we have to do to stop our federal government usurping authority that we all are here upset about. Honestly, we're upset about different issues, healthcare, taxes, spending, but it all comes down to the same root. Do we have individual responsibilities and individual rights, or are we just members of a collectivist tyranny? I believe we're not members of a collectivist tyranny, and our founders gave us a constitution to specifically limit our federal government to certain rights. The problem is they're not. And the only tool, I believe the most effective tool we have to stop them, is the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, where it specifically says any rights not given to the federal government are retained by the states, and more importantly, we the people. And the next thing I want to address is I've come to the Tea Parties, I've gone to other meetings, I've talked with other citizens, and we all kind of feel like, okay, I'm very passionate, I'm very upset, but what do we do about this? I've commandeered a piece of legislation from a fellow patriot in Pennsylvania who speaks the same words I believe that we feel. And a piece of legislation that I'll gladly hand out. I brought copies with me to hand out to anybody else. And I'd like to discuss with I'd like for us to take to our leaders, Democrats, Republicans, and hopefully unaffiliated candidates in the future, to hold down, to pin down the federal government, to say you don't have the right to tell us what we have to do for health care, what kind of cars we should buy, and how much money you're going to give us to go buy a new one, and what kind of light bulbs we should have in our house. This to me is going beyond the point of just being upset and sitting at home and wanting to throw your TV off your deck into your backyard and not watch any of the news channels anymore. It's gone to the point where we need to take action. We really need to go to your political, any of your representatives' meetings, anywhere where you can go with them and meet with them and ask them, what do they believe about 10th Amendment legislation? What do they believe about states' rights? And start to elect from the state level. It's important for us to understand this needs to happen at the state level for the state of Maryland, for our case, to reassert our sovereignty, to reassert that the federal government are agents of the states and not the other way around.
Yes. Here, here.
They don't have the right to commandeer our legislative progress, or deny or disparage any rights granted to us by the Constitution. The last thing that I'll say, I want to end up with, as I've been studying the Constitution, my favorite quote of any of the people of our founding is from Patrick Henry. We've heard the end of this quote a lot, but the first part is to me almost as important. He came up, he got frustrated, almost like we all are, and said, "Is our life so dear, and is our peace so sweet, that we will be willing to barter for it at the price of chains and slavery? Said, and forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what those of you shall choose, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death."
I looked at it right away and said, this is horrible, but who am I? How can I explain to my listeners how horrible this is? So I reached out to Dr. John Vitarello, who's the chief cardiologist at Frederick Memorial Hospital, and said, would you please come on my program and tell the listeners? And, you know, a lot of times business people, or professionals I should say, don't want to get involved. You know, they're in business. They got to pay bills like everybody else. They don't want to hurt their practice or hurt themselves. But right away, Dr. V, that's because I butchered his last name. Dr. V right away said, absolutely. Not only will I come on with you, I'll come on every week or two and give you updates. So he has done an outstanding job, and let me tell you, this is a Blue Dog Democrat. A Blue Dog Democrat. So when I wrote my column in the Gazette this week promoting the Tea Party, this is not about Democrat, Republican, Independent. We are conservative Americans that just want our leaders to stick to the principles of the Constitution. That's it.